our 54th annual cleanup. We were going to have it last week, but it was horrible weather. It was rainy, it was cold, it was windy, so we postponed it. That's the first time in 54 years we've ever had to postpone it, but I'm glad we did because it's an absolutely perfect, gorgeous day today, and we're getting a good turnout here. We're going to give it a few more minutes and then get started, and we'll talk a little bit about what we've been doing for the last year and what our goals are, and then we'll ask our volunteers to get out there and start cleaning up. So delighted, especially I'm delighted by all the young people here, people like yourself who are in middle school or high school. We've got a number of folks here, but also the really little kids here. They're the ones who we're looking forward to. There's a little kid there, there's a bunch of little kids here, and so we're really delighted to see the little kids. And that's what we want to have the next generation be taking over this activity in a few more years.
This is a wonderful opportunity for the community to come together in a common cause. The environment is so important. We celebrated Earth Day a short time ago, and this is our opportunity to show that we do care. We've done a lot of environmental legislation in Albany, particularly in the budget that we passed last week, and it's going to continue, and I think it's important for young people to be involved because they're the ones for whom we are trying to clean up the planet, and they will pass that along to their families.
Believe it or not, all right, so the odds were really against us because for 53 years in a row, we never, ever once had to postpone because of the weather. We had a little bit of drizzle once in a while, we had some hail once in a while, but we never had such bad weather that we had to cancel. Well, all right, the odds were against us. This is the first year where we actually had to postpone by a week. We were supposed to have this last week. Fortunately, a couple of my colleagues talked me out of it, said, don't be an idiot. It's rainy, it's windy, it's cold, it's miserable. And so we said, okay, we'll postpone it, and here we have this absolutely gorgeous, spectacular day. Thank you to Tom, thank you to Gloria for talking me off the ledge on that one. So, I want to introduce our New York State Assemblyman Ed Braunstein, who's here. Happy has been here for many years with his two sons, ready to work. I'm going to ask Ed to say a few words in just a minute, but later on, we do expect our state senator, Toby Stavisky, to be able to be here. Greetings from our council member, Vicky Palladino. I want to introduce Matt Simmons from the New York City Parks Department. Matt is the Northeast Queens Parks Administrator, a great supporter and a terrific friend. I want to acknowledge Anthony Deng. Where's Anthony? Back there in the blue. Anthony is with the Partnership for Parks. They provide the bags and the gloves and all that support, and we have terrific support from them. From the Parks Department, we get the 30 cubic yard dumpster, which is standing right now next to Memorial Field. We hope we're going to try and fill it up as much as we can. We also have this year, for the first time ever, a porta potty over there.
Thank you, Matt!
And also some tents that'll be covering over where the picnic lunch is so that we keep it out of the sun. Thank you to Tom Holman and Lucy. Tom is for the sound system that I'm using as we speak. Thank you, Tom. Thanks to Gloria Bodie and Nancy Barthold for arranging the lunch. And Vivian Link and Marcy Manor who are going to help serve that lunch. Thank you for them. Thanks to Carolyn and Bernie Cara for their support, helping to bring along some of the materials and so forth. Thank you to the DMA and Pia Thompson, who's the president of the DMA, for allowing us to use Douglas Manor's Memorial Field. And so we're terrifically grateful for that. And even more important, they also allow us to use, or they allow it to be used, their pickup truck, the DMA pickup truck. And that's critical to us because we have to go around and drive around and collect all the garbage that all you folks are going to be picking up. And we have to bring that stuff back to the dumpster. So thank you to the DMA for all of those things. And we have Tom Derby, TJ, who's going to be driving the truck for us this year. Normally it's Ron Sarr. He couldn't make it this week as we had postponed it. So his colleague Tom Derby is going to be driving the pickup truck. I want to thank Alana Mugden and Daniel Savage, who are going to be helping me to actually go around and pick up all that garbage, put it into the pickup truck, bring it back to the dumpster. We've got various groups that I'd like to acknowledge. I mentioned the DMA. We also have our great friends from the DMEA, the Douglas Manor Environmental Association. Kudos to them for the Big Rock project, $4 million in grants to do a major restoration project from Memorial Field out to the end of the point where Big Rock is. That work is likely to be able to start actual construction in 2024. The money is in hand. Congratulations, DMEA. Fantastic job. I want to thank the Douglaston Little Neck Historical Society. Pam Broderick's the president. We've got a number of colleagues on the board of directors there. And I'm going to mention that the Historical Society is having their annual meeting this afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Community Church of Douglaston. We had carefully worked it out that we wouldn't conflict. We were going to have our cleanup last week. They were going to have their annual meeting this week, but things didn't work out that way. However, there'll be plenty of time for those of you who want to do some cleaning up, come to our picnic, go home, wash up, and then still get to the Historical Society annual meeting in time for that. I want to thank also the Alley Pond Environmental Center. They have in past years always provided us with space for having our board of directors meetings. We haven't done that for a couple of years with COVID, but we're going to start that and hopefully start it again with our fall meeting of the board of directors in Apex new home, which finally should be ready by this fall.
Yay!
I want to mention that we have a couple of great school groups here with us today, starting with Binghamton University. The Days of Service. Matt is an alum of Binghamton, as are Marcy, as are Junko and Gary, so you've got your people all set up there. You'll take your photo up later on. Good. Okay. We've got some young people here from various schools. We got MS 74 in Bayside. Who's from MS 74? Raise your hand. Hey, come on, don't be shy. Raise your hand if you're from MS 74. All right. We got somebody from Mary Lewis Academy here. I know. We've got some other any other school groups that are represented here? I know that we have individuals here with different schools, but it's wonderful to see the young people out. Really appreciate all your support. Okay, and I want to thank all of our new and renewing members for your continued support. We are really grateful to it. We've been doing very well with our membership. We've been doing a lot of work over the past year. We continue to do trail improvements. We've had Eagle Scouts. Right now, last November, we had our 24th Eagle Scout project, and right now I'm working with a young man on our 25th Eagle Scout project, and that'll be taking place next month sometime. Since we met last year, the concrete blockhouse in Udalls Cove is gone, the one that had the daisies painted on it. Some people were a little sad to see it go. Most people were happy to get that eyesore out of the way. It was a little dangerous, but that was removed as part of the Belgrave Sewage Treatment Plant outfall pipe replacement project. And the impetus to get rid of that came from a recommendation from Mike Gannon. Mike, you were the one who suggested it. And then we had a young Eagle Scout named Ian Sow who did a petition drive and a letter writing campaign to the Belgrave Sewage Treatment Commissioners to recommend that when they did the project to replace their outfall pipe, they should also get rid of that blockhouse, and they did. And so congratulations and thank you to the folks who did that. Wildlife update, our ospreys are back. We've built, Udalls Cove has built 2 osprey platforms over the last 15 years, 20 years. Both of them have been occupied almost every year. They've fledged chicks out of them almost every year. In addition to those 2 that we built, there are now a total of 6 active nests in Little Neck Bay, and a 7th nesting platform was just installed by the Alley Pond, by the Parks Department in Alley Pond, and we hope that that one will be occupied as well. Probably these are all offspring of the ones living on the platforms that we built. So we're delighted by that. But we got lots of other wildlife in the area. We have a resident coyote who's moving in between Great Neck and Douglaston and Little Neck and Douglaston, Alley Pond Park, Udalls Park. These are its home range. And now we have a second coyote in this area who was released after having been rehabilitated from an injury it sustained in a car accident in Floral Park. That was about 2 months ago. The coyote was rescued.
Just seen at the Douglaston driving range on Monday night.
We don't know which one it is. Could be the new one, could be the old one, but now there's 2 of them here, that's right.
Running right across.
Then, earlier this year, 3 or 4 dolphins were seen swimming in Little Neck Bay. The second time in a couple of years we've seen dolphins there. Dino Oranges saw them, and some other people saw them. It was actually shown on television. So we have a lot of wildlife coming back to this area. It's really terrific. At this point, let me ask our Assemblyman, Ed Bronstein, to come up here and see if he can say a few words. Be careful, Ed, you got
Good morning. It's great to see everybody. I come to this event every year. Every year we brag about how it never rains, but in 54 years it was bound to happen, and I think it worked out for the best because the weather is absolutely beautiful today. And I just want to thank everybody. I mean, the Udalls Cove Parkland area is just an absolute treasure for our community, and it's not like that by chance. It's because so many people worked hard. So I want to thank everybody from the Douglaston and Little Neck community for your advocacy. I want to thank everybody who helps come out and keep it clean. And I really want to thank Walter for his leadership. I mean, he is our leader on these issues. Let's give him a round of applause. And you know, I come and help clean up, and I also use the paths. I mean, it's a great place to take my two boys when we want to get away for a little bit. You can forget you're in New York City sometimes when you're working on these when you're walking on these paths. So I just want to thank everybody. We're gonna hang out and clean up for a little bit. If you see me leaving early, I'm not slacking off. I'm going to an Eagle Scout ceremony.
All right.
Chances are one of those Eagle Scouts helped fix up one of these paths. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, for all the work that you do.
And thank you for
We
your
all
work,
appreciate it.
Assemblyman.
Assemblyman Bronstein has been a terrific supporter of ours for many, many years. Oh, is the state senator here? Perfect timing. All right. We're not going to make our state senator climb up onto the platform here, but we're going to ask him to come and say a few words. Let's see if I can get down with that climate. Okay. How long is that cord, Walter? It's long enough. We'll just bring the state senator here. There she is. Okay. So, up until recently, our most recent state senator was John Liu. As a result of redistricting, we are now delighted and pleased to be represented by our state senator, Toby Stavisky.
How are
See
you?
you. All right.
Good to see you. What is it they say? Timing is everything?
Timing is everything. Perfect timing. That's right.
Sorry, I came from a local free breakfast in Leicester. But I'm really here to thank everybody for what you're doing. I recognize the importance of the area. I've had extensive discussions with both Walter and Sean and a lot of people. We've spoken to the people at the State Department of Environmental Conservation. When he called me, he said to me, before I said anything else, he said, "How's Udalls Cove?" I will call him next week now that we've done our budget, and I will tell him it's great.
Doing well. I think
And
it's great.
we're doing well, boy. So, and I must tell you one other thing. I do remember Aurora Garrice. And the area that's named after her.
Aurora Pond,
Aurora
right
Pond.
next to us here. Yep.
And Virginia Dent and some of the people going back to the late 70s, I guess.
Absolutely, yes.
Early 80s. So
1969 is when she founded it. There it is.
There it is. So thank you all very much. This area is new to me, but I'm learning, and that I think is important. In Albany, I chair the Committee on Higher Education, and we believe that education starts with pre-K and goes on to graduate
Look at
school.
all the young people.
And we see a lot, that's why I mentioned it, a lot of young people, excuse me, a lot of young people, and come back after you graduate from school. This is a great community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I want to stress that as soon as she was elected and became our state senator for this district, she reached out to Sean Walsh, the president of the Douglaston Civic Association, and she reached out to me. And recognizing that we had the multi-billion-dollar bond act, Environmental Bond Act, that passed through the election last November.
The voters approved it.
The voters approved it. The voters approved it overwhelmingly. That's a New York State bond act. Recognizing that that was there, and recognizing that it was important to make sure that New York City and Queens and her district also got the fair share of money to improve parks and so forth. The senator reached out to us right away and asked for identifying areas that could be acquired, that needed to be acquired, and we are so grateful for you to do that.
And
Thank you.
I sent that material to State DEC. They were very familiar with it, and let's keep our fingers crossed.
So thank you very, very much, Senator. We know you have a lot of other obligations, but we're delighted that you were able to come by. So the state senator mentioned Aurora Garais. She is a founder of our organization, founded in 1969. Her principal collaborator was Virginia Dent. The senator mentioned her as well. That's Aurora Pond is named after Aurora Garais. Virginia Point is named after Virginia Dent. And Virginia's daughter, Marie Dent Schofield, has been here year after year after year with us, and welcome and thank you. Perfect to have you here. We're going to have a very, very, very quick business meeting, and then we're going to go on and give some instructions on the cleanup. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a vote of those present here for the entire board of directors and officers. I'm going to quickly read out the names. If you're here, please raise your hand. So, my name is Walter Mugden. I'm president of the organization. Our first vice president, Bruce Stewart. Our second vice president, Pat St. John, back there. We've got our treasurer, Junko Savage, and our secretary, Karen Dinegard. Let me thank all the directors, Gloria Bodie, Nancy Barthold, Krista George, John Duane, Aileen Euler, Tom Holman, Gene McCullough, Effie Mazulis, Peter Siegel, Doug Sloan, Cecilia Bonasta, and Jerry Bilbig. Thank you to the entire slate. All in favor of them, say aye. Aye. I hope nobody say nay. I'm not even going to ask. So, those folks, you're back in harness for another year. Thank you. One last announcement before we get to the cleanup work. The Memorial Day Parade, the Little Neck Douglaston Memorial Day Parade, the largest parade in the nation, will be back again in full force this year on Monday, May 28th. Udalls Cove will be marching behind this banner. We will be meeting next to the Starbucks at 55 Northern Boulevard, just in Great Neck. If anybody wants to join us for marching, you're certainly more than welcome, and we would be delighted to have you. All right, so on to the cleanup. The good news is that there are a number of areas with very little garbage. In fact, Virginia Point is one of those areas where there's only one spot in the Virginia Point area, right at the end of that little walkway that takes you right out to where the big rocks are that you can look out. Down below that, if the tide permits you to get down there, that's about the only place in Virginia Point where there's garbage. But if you can get to some of that, that would be fabulous. So, the good news is there's less garbage out there. The city, the state's returnable beverage container ordinance, that helps. The ban on plastic bags helps. All of those things help. And people, I think, maybe are paying more attention. So that's really the good news. And that means there's a little bit less work for some of you to do today. And you'll be able to just do some cleanup, but also enjoy the day and then come to the free picnic lunch. In a moment, I'm going to go down to that table over there. We have maps. I'll talk to people and say, what do you got? If you have a vehicle, what we would really like you to do is to take a 5 or an 8 minute drive over to Great Neck, and we have a map there that shows you exactly where to go. We've got an address you can put into your GPS that'll take you exactly to that location. You can park there, and from that location there's a little trail that takes you right to the shoreline of Udalls Cove, and it is the shoreline that has the most garbage, because what happens is when it rains, the garbage that people dump under the streets go into the storm drains, they go through the storm sewers, they end up out in the bay, and then with the next storm, it gets washed up onto the shoreline. So there is tons of plastic. So anybody who has a motor vehicle or who can get a ride, who can get over to the Great Neck location and spend half an hour, fill up 1 or 2 garbage bags, bring them out to the street, we will then come and collect them with the DMA pickup truck. We also need, and Karen and her colleagues and some of the young people from the schools are going to go out to what we call the North Ravine Trail, right at the north end of Orient Avenue, formerly 243rd Street. There's a dead end there. That's where one of our trails begins. 50, 60 feet in on the trail, down to your right as you walk down the trail, there's a whole bunch of trash and invasive vegetation that has been removed by Mark Jensen and some of his friends and colleagues over the last couple of months. They've been doing a tremendous restoration project there, planting new native trees to replace some of the knotweed and the other invasive species that are growing there. So that's a great place we need it. We think the Binghamton team, you're going to go to our Dug Bay area. That's another lovely little trail, and Matt will of course tell you where it is. You go right out to the shoreline, and again, a lot of garbage that washes up onto the shoreline. There we also have some fishermen. Some of them are wonderful. Some of them intend to leave a lot of their beer cans and other things there, so you'll have some stuff to pick up there. For those others who are walking the shoreline near Memorial Field, it's about maybe a 5 or an 8 minute walk directly in this direction. Again, we have maps. That needs some cleanup. If there's anybody here who's got a young child who would like to go and collect golf balls, right adjacent to the Douglaston Golf Driving Range, we have one of our trail systems there. And at the east end of the Douglaston Golf Driving Range parking lot, there's the entrance to our trail, and it leads into a very, very lovely area called the Old Oak Pond area. The trail is very, very easy to see, but right where you park, right at the end of that spot, and just to the left as you go in, along the fence line of the golf driving range, are about 1 million golf balls. That's right. And I've got a bucket here that I can give. If there's anybody here, any parent with a couple of young kids who would like to go and collect golf balls, I'll give you the bucket, and you can do that. And then when you're done, you can take them to the driving range, and they will be delighted.
The Assemblyman's got it.
Okay, the Assemblyman and his kids. We will give you the bucket, and that'll be a great place for you to take your kids, and they can collect the golf balls. So, we have other areas near Memorial Field. That area near Osprey Landing, that needs some cleaning up. Right at the corner of 40th Avenue and 247th Street, there's some cleaning up that needs to be done there. So, I'm going to go down to the street, street where the table is. Come and talk to me if you need to have some suggestions as to where you can drive to or where you can walk to. I'll give you the maps. There are garbage bags there. Take 1 or 2 of them along. Don't overfill them. Don't strain yourself. But do fill as much as you can into them. And there also are a lot of work gloves there. Make sure you have work gloves. We don't want anybody out there. Final note, be careful of poison ivy. It is out. If you don't know what poison ivy is, the story is leaves of 3, leave them be. So if you see a plant that has clusters of 3 leaves, and the leaves are shiny and olive green with a red tinge, shiny leaves, that's poison ivy. Just don't touch it. Okay, final note, after you're done cleaning up at noon, we're going to have our picnic lunch for the first time since 2019. We canceled it over the last several years thanks to the pandemic. But thank you to Gloria and Nancy and Vivian and Marcy and others who've helped on the picnic lunch. Go and enjoy it at Memorial Field. We'll see you there at noon. Thank you.